Hello, dear senior. Have you ever met someone whose presence feels like a quiet afternoon breeze? Someone who doesn't fill the room with words, but somehow you feel safer just knowing they're there. They don't always say what they feel. They don't demand attention or raise their voice to be heard. And yet when they look at you, it's as if they understand more than you've ever said out loud. Some people call them shy. Some call them distant. But we know they are something far deeper than that. They are the quiet hearts, the still waters, the souls who speak softly, but live fully. And as the years go by, these quiet souls grow even more gentle, more wise, more mysterious. They carry decades of stories behind their eyes, but only share them with those who take the time to truly see. In this video, we're going to take a gentle walk through 20 reflections, 20 truths about introverted elders, not labels, not stereotypes, but small windows into the hearts of those who may not say much, yet have always had so much to give. So if you've ever loved someone quieter, if you are that someone quiet, this is for you. Let's begin. Number 1. Not easy to read, but always calming. They sit quietly by the window, watching the leaves sway with the wind, and you might wonder, what are they thinking? You see, introverted elders are not easy to read. They don't wear their emotions on their sleeves. They don't rush to speak or fill silences with noise. And perhaps that's what makes them so beautifully different. In a world that often rewards loudness, they remain still, not because they have nothing to say, but because they've learned through time that not everything needs to be spoken. They have lived long enough to know that peace doesn't come from proving yourself to the world, but from understanding who you are even in the quietest moments. There is something calming about their presence. You feel it when they walk into the room. No fanfare, no spotlight, just a quiet grace that settles over everything, like a soft blanket on a cold evening. They are not easy to figure out, no, but they don't need to be, because what they offer is not for the curious eye, but for the patient heart. Those who take the time to truly be with them often find that the calm they carry is more powerful than 1,000 words. Number 2. Loyal in silence. Present without many words. You might not hear them say it often. They won't declare their loyalty in grand speeches or promise the stars under moonlit skies. But when you look back over the years they were there quietly, steadily, through the changes, the laughter, the aching silence, these stayed. Introverted elders don't prove their love with loud gestures. They don't flood you with messages or check in every hour, but they remember your favorite tea. They notice when you're tired. They wait for you to speak and never rush your words. Their presence is their promise. They're the ones who sit with you in hospitals without needing to speak. The ones who show up to birthdays with a hand-knitted scarf and a card that says just a few words, but the right ones. They may not say I love you often, but they'll walk through the rain just to bring you soup. They'll keep the photo you forgot you gave them, tucked between the pages of their favorite book. And when the world gets too loud, too fast, too demanding, they become your quiet refuge. Loyalty to them is not a performance. It's a way of being. They don't need to be noticed, but they'll never let you feel forgotten. In their silence, there's a depth of love that words could never quite reach. If this video brought a smile to your face or warmed your heart, don't forget to tap the like button. Number 3, a quiet guide, not a loud leader. They may never have stood on a podium, never raised their voice in a crowded room, and yet people followed them, not because they demanded it, but because they inspired it. Introverted elders don't lead with volume. They lead with presence, with a steady hand, a thoughtful pause, and a gaze that sees further than most. They've lived long enough to know that leadership isn't about being the loudest voice in the room. It's about being the calm in the storm. It's about knowing when to speak and, more importantly, when to listen. They don't chase applause. They don't need titles. But in moments of uncertainty, when others scramble for answers, They quietly offer wisdom that steadies everyone around them. You'll find them guiding without telling you what to do. Their advice may come wrapped in a story from decades ago, or in a single sentence that lingers in your heart for years. They are the ones others go to not for instructions, but for perspective. Not for orders, but for clarity. In their presence, you feel safe, not because they control the moment, but because they understand it. They are leaders of another kin, those who lead not with force, but with deep-rooted strength and gentle conviction. And often, you won't realize how much they've shaped your path until one day you look back and find their quiet footprints in every turning point of your life. Number 4, at peace with themselves. They don't compete, they don't compare, and they no longer carry the heavy burden of needing to be someone else. You see, introverted elders have reached a quiet place within a place where the noise of the world no longer rattles their soul. There was a time, perhaps, when they too worried about being enough, being seen, being accepted. But life with all its turns and lessons just gently taught them that peace doesn't come from the outside. It's something you build slowly, silently within your own heart. They no longer try to keep up. They walk at their own pace, breathe in their own rhythm. They've made peace with their younger self and forgiven the parts of them that were once afraid. They don't dress to impress, but to feel at ease. They don't say things just to be polite. They speak when it matters and stay silent when it doesn't. There is a stillness in them that others notice, a sense that they are no longer chasing anything but approval, not status, not perfection. They are simply being fully, softly, honestly, and perhaps the most beautiful part, they are no longer trying to be understood. They know who they are, and that is enough. To be in their companies, to feel the quiet hum of someone new who has made peace with the mirror, with the past, with life itself. Number 5, mysterious, but not because they want to hide. There's something about them that you can't quite put into words. A quiet air, a thoughtful pause, a look in their eyes that seems to carry 1,000 untold stories. Introverted elders often appear mysterious not because they are hiding something, but because they've learned that not everything needs to be shared. They've seen enough of life to know that some memories are sacred. Some thoughts are better kept between the heart and the silence. They are not mysterious to be distant nor secretive. To be cold, they simply understand that depth doesn't need to be loud. They might smile while everyone else is talking, choosing to listen instead. They might stay quiet at gatherings, but remember everything that matters. Child's favorite color, the friend who lost a partner, the cousin who's afraid of growing old. Their mystery is not a mask. It's a reflection of how deeply they feel, how gently they move through the world. And when they do choose to speak, it feels like finding a rare seashell on a quiet beach, unexpected, delicate, and quietly beautiful. Their stories often come in pieces of memory dropped like a pebble into the conversation, a passing thought that reveals so much more than they meant to share. If you're patient, if you're kind, they might invite you into that quiet world of theirs, and what you'll find there is a mystery at all but truth, wisdom, and a heart that has simply learned that they value silence. Number 6, not easy to approach, but deeply sincere once the door is open. They're not the first to greet you at a gathering. They don't wave across the room or dive into small talk with a stranger. They may sit quietly in the corner, hands folded, eyes observing gently from a distance. Some say they're hard to approach, and maybe that's true, but not because they think they're better than anyone, not because they're cold. They're just careful with their energy, with their trust, with their heart. You see, introverted elders have lived long enough to know that not everyone enters your life to stay. They've had their share of loud hells that ended in quiet goodbyes. So now, they open the door slowly, but when they do, it stays open with sincerity and warmth you won't find just anywhere. They don't welcome crowds, but they cherish closeness. They won't flood you with words, but what they do say matters. Once you've crossed that invisible threshold, you begin to realize There's a kindness. There, a depth. A loyalty that grows in quiet spaces. They remember things others forget. They listen when you don't know how to explain. They notice what you never say out loud. And though they may be slow to let you in, they're even slower to let you go. So, if one of them lets you sit beside them in silence, if they offer you a story, a smile, or simply their time, take it as a gift, because you've just been welcomed into a world not many are allowed to see. Number 7. A listener not just with ears, but with presence. Some people listen just to reply, but introverted elders, they listen to understand. They sit with you, quietly, gently, as if your words are a fragile bird resting in their hands. They don't interrupt. They don't hurry you along. They make space not just in the room, but in their attention, in their company. You don't feel like a conversation is something to finish you. Feel like you're being heard in a way you didn't realize you needed. They may not give advice right away. They may not offer a solution at all, because they know so many times you're not looking for answers. You're looking for someone to sit beside your worry without trying to fix it. Introverted elders have mastered the quiet arts not only of hearing, but of being with. Their eyes don't wander. Their hands don't fidget. They are there for you, even in silence. You feel their presence, and when you're finished speaking, you don't feel judged. You feel lighter. You see, in a world that so often rushes past pain, they have chosen to stay still beside it, not because they have all the answers, but because they understand what it means to carry emotions that have no words. They listen not just with their ears, but with their patience, their stillness, and their soul. Number 8. A faithful listener, even to the same story again and again. You might think they've heard it all before, and maybe they have. The same story about your first heartbreak, that one mistake you still carry, or the little memory you keep, returning to like a song stuck in your chest. But somehow introverted elders never make you feel like a burden, even when the tale is familiar. Even when the words have been said a dozen times, they still lean in, still listen, still care. Because to them, listening isn't about collecting new information. It's about honoring the person in front of them. It's about letting you know your voice still matters. Even if the story has been told before, they understand that some wounds speak in circles, that some joys are too precious to only be shared once. They don't rush you with a nod. They don't say, "Yes, yes, you told me that." Instead, they offer the same gentle smile, the same quiet presence, as if it were the first time. And perhaps that's their secret to listen not to the words, but to the emotion beneath them, to the longing, the fear, the pride, the ache. They know that for some stories, we need to hear ourselves tell them again and again before we can truly let them go, or before we can fully embrace what they mean to us. So, when they sit with you, patient and still, you don't just feel hard, you feel safe. Safe to repeat yourself, safe to be unsure, safe to be you. And in that quiet, they remind you, you are worthy of being hardened just once, but always. Number 9. Passive, yet always quietly alert. They don't rush in. They don't jump to the front. Don't grab attention. Don't need the last word in the room. To some, they might seem passive as though they're simply drifting through the moment. But look again, a little closer, and you'll notice they are watching. They are listening. They are taking in everything. Introverted elders may not move fast, but they move with thought. They may not speak often, but when they do, what they say is often exactly what needed to be said. They don't react on impulse. They've seen what that can lead to. Instead, they take a breath. They pause. They let silence do its work. And in that space, they observe more than most ever notice. They notice who didn't finish their meal, who's unusually quiet today, who smiled with their mouth, but not their eyes. Don't chase the moment, they hold it. Steady, calm, grounded. And while others may run in all directions, trying to fix or control, these quiet elders remain still yet utterly present. It's a different kind of strength, a quiet alertness, One that doesn't shout, but protects. That doesn't demand, but supports. They're the ones who step in gently when it matters most. The ones who offer a tissue before you realize you're about to cry. The ones who already knew something was wrong long before you said a word. They may seem passive, but within them lives a quiet vigilance that never truly sleeps. Number 10. Living in a world they've created for themselves. They don't need much to feel complete. A quiet room, a warm cup of tea, a familiar song playing softly in the background. And just like that, they are home not just in place, but in spirit. Introverted. Elders often carry a world within them. A world not built of walls and furniture, but of memories, meaning, and rituals they've come to love. While others chase excitement, they tend gardens, they reread old books. They sit with their thoughts and walk familiar paths as if they were holy ground. Their world is slower, quieter, but it's rich, woven with small details and deep reflections. The teacup with a crack that reminds them of a friend, the photo by the bedside that hasn't moved in years, the drawer full of handwritten notices they'll never throw away. They're not lonely. They've simply found comfort in a space that belongs entirely to them. A world where silence isn't emptiness but peace, where routine isn't boring but sacred. They don't open this world to just anyone, but if you're lucky enough to be invited in, you'll discover it's filled with gentle treasures, a kind of beauty that doesn't shout, but lingers. You'll see how they made room for their thoughts, their grief, their hopes. You'll understand that solitude, for them, isn't about shutting the world out. It's about welcoming themselves in. And in that quiet world, they are not escaping life. They are honoring it one peaceful moment at a time. Number 11. A thinker who doesn't need to speak to be understood. They sit quietly while others speak. They nod gently, perhaps offering a soft smile or a thoughtful glance. And though they may say very little, you sense that there's so much happening. Behind those calm eyes, introverted elders are thinkers. Not just in the way they reflect on the world, but in how deeply they consider what others so often rush past. They don't need to debate, don't need to prove their intellect. Their wisdom isn't loud, it's steady. Like a river beneath still water, they weigh their words before speaking, not because they're afraid, but because they respect words and know the weight they carry. You might find them pausing before they respond, not searching for something to say, but choosing carefully what deserves to be said. Their thoughts are not always shared aloud, but they ripple through their actions, through quiet gestures, through subtle presence. They'll remember a detail from months ago. They'll notice what's missing in a story, not to correct you, but to understand more fully. They may sit in silence during a group conversation, and then, with one quiet sentence, reframe the entire discussion with clarity no one else had found. It's easy to overlook the mantle. You need someone who truly thinks, someone who isn't swept away by emotion or ego, but who listens, reflects, and responds with purpose. Their thoughts are not scattered, but shaped over time like smooth stones polished by years of living, questioning, learning. And though they may never seek the spotlight, those who listen closely come to realize their mind is not only sharp, it is wise, compassionate, and deeply, quietly extraordinary. Number 12. Sensitive to the emotions of others. They may not say much, but they feel deeply. You won't always see it in their face. You might not even hear it in their voice. But when someone near them is hurting, they know, long before words are spoken. They sense it. Introvert elders are finely tuned to the emotional temperature of a room, not because they've studied psychology, but because they spent a lifetime listening with more than just their ears. They pick up on the way someone's smile doesn't quite reach their eyes. They hear the pause between sentences that others miss. They notice the way a hand trembles, or how someone keeps glancing at the door as if trying to hold something in. And they respond not with advice, not with lectures, but with kindness, a hand gently placed on yours. A warm drink offered without asking. A simple, you don't have to explain. I'm here. Their empathy isn't showy. It's quiet, respectful, and deeply human. They understand that not everyone wants to talk, but everyone needs to be seen, and they see you even in your silence, especially in your silence, because they, too, have had moments when they couldn't find the words. They, too, have felt things he didn't know how to express, so they offer the kind of presenter that doesn't demand anything in return. They simply sit with you in your feeling, making space for it, holding it gently as if to say, I may not have the answers, but I will not let you carry this alone. That's the gift of their sensitivity, not just noticing emotions, but honoring them with dignity and grace. Number 13, creativity born from silence. Silence isn't empty for them. It's a canvas, a space where colors take shape, where thoughts turn into gardens and memories bloom into stories no one else could tell. Introverted elders often carry a creativity that wasn't built in art schools or workshops, but in the quiet corners of life, in the hush of early mornings, the rhythm of knitting needles, the way they hum softly while peeling an apple. They may not show their work to the world. They may not even call it art, but their creativity is everywhere in the letters they write, in the way they arrange flowers on a table, in the bedtime stories they once told with characters only their grandchildren would remember. Their minds are alive with imagination, because silence has always been a friend, not a void. Where others feel restless in stillness, they feel inspired, because in stillness, they hear ideas whispering. They see connections others miss. They find beauty in the small, the unnoticed, the fleeting. You might open a drawer in their home and find hand-carved wooden animals, or pages of poems never shared. You might hear them recount a dream that sounds like the start of a novel, or watch them turn old cloth into something lovely and new. Their creativity isn't always loud, but it's honest, born not to impress, but to express, not to be admired, but to bring peace, to give joy, to quietly heal, and the most beautiful part, they don't need an audience. The act of creating is enough, because in that gentle process, they return to themselves over and over again. Number 14, value in the quality of time, not the quantity of interaction. For some, connection means constant conversation, filling the air with words though prove presence. But not for them. Introverted elders understand something deeper. That time is precious not because of how much we feel it, but how sincerely we live it. To them, 5 quiet minutes with someone who truly listens can mean more than 5 noisy hours filled with empty talk. They don't need a crowd to feel alive. They don't crave attention or the pressure to be social all the time. They seek the thrill of connection, even if brief. A shared glance while sipping tea, a quiet walk without the need to speak, a letter written slowly. With care, these moments stay with them not because they were loud, but because they were real. They won't ask for your time constantly, but when they do, it's because they believe the moment is worth it, because they want to give you their full self, not just surface level interaction. Their friendships may be few, but they are deep. Their bonds are not maintained by constant checking in, but by quiet trust, unspoken understanding, and a kind of loyalty that does not waver with silence. And when they love thee, love fully, with attention, with presence. They may not flood you with words, but they will remember what matters to you. They will be there when it truly counts. In a world that often celebrates the many, they honor the meaningful. And through them, we're reminded that time when shared gently, truthfully becomes timeless. Number 15, often misunderstood, but deeply consistent. They spent a lifetime being misunderstood, not because they were unclear, but because the world often listens only to what's loud. People may have mistaken their silence for coldness, their solitude for arrogance, their quietness for disinterest, but nothing could be further from the truth. Introverted elders have learned, sometimes painfully, that being different is not always welcomed. especially in a world that rewards the outspoken. And so, over time, they stopped trying to explain themselves. They stopped needing to be validated. Instead, they chose to be steady true to who they are. Even if others don't understand it, they are not unpredictable. They won't charm you to die and forget you tomorrow. They are consistent, like the seasons, like a favorite chair that's always there when you need to rest. Their presence doesn't shift with trends. They don't pretend to be someone else in order to fit in. They show up the same way gently. Honestly, day after day. When they give their word, they mean it. When they say nothing, it doesn't mean they don't care. In fact, it often means they care more deeply than words could hold. It can be easy to overlook them, to dismiss them as distant or detached. But those who take the time to truly see them will discover something rare, a soul that has weathered misunderstanding without becoming bitter. Instead of shouting louder, they chose to live truer. And in that choice, they became anchors people who won't flatter you just to be liked, who won't leave when things get quiet, who love not in bursts, but in rhythms. They are not loud, but they are reliable. And in a noisy, uncertain world, that is a kind of love that never goes unnoticed by those who truly understand. Number 16. They notice what others overlook. They've never been the first to speak in a crowded room. They don't dominate conversations. Don't interrupt. Don't rush in with answers. But while the world talks, they are watching quietly, gently, with eyes that see what others miss. Introverted elders have a gift, the ability to notice the smallest things, a hand trembling ever so slightly, a sigh held just a little too long, a smile that's doing its best to hide a worry. They spent years observing, noticing how emotions live in posture, how stories are told between the lines, how truth sometimes whispers instead of shouting. And because they are not distracted by the need to impress, they have space in their hearts to witness, to really, truly see. They'll remember your favorite flower ever if you mention it only once. Years ago, they'll notice the way you pause before saying "I'm fine" and gently ask again at the pry. But to let you know you're not alone. Their noticing isn't nosy. It's caring, it's quiet compassion. It's the kind of attention that makes you feel held, without being held too tightly. They see when someone's been left out. They remember who prefers tea without sugar. They pick up the details that fall through the cracks of busyness. And in doing so, they make others feel seen in ways that are rare and deeply healing. In a world that often looks right past the quiet ones, they are the ones looking closely, not with judgment, but with a kind of tenderness that turns ordinary moments into sacred ones. Their eyes are gentle, but they see clearly, and in their presence, we're reminded that the heart doesn't need to shout or understand. Number 17. They recharge not through people, but through peace. They love people deeply. But people, even those they care for, can be tiring. It's not that they don't enjoy company. They do. They laugh, they listen, they show up with full hearts. But when the day is over, when the voices quiet down, they don't look for another conversation. They look for calm. For introverted elders, recharging comes not from more interaction, but from less. They find their strength in solitude, their rhythm in silence. A walk alone beneath the trees. A cup of tea sipped slowly by the window. Hands folded quietly over a favorite book. Not dramatic, not loud, just enough. You might worry they're lonely, but don't. In those still moments, they are returning to themselves, like the tide meeting the... Sure, they find peace not in noise, but in presence. Some recharge by being seen. They recharge by buying without having to explain, without performing, without pressure. It's not escape, it's nourishment. And after that stillness, they come back to the world softer, steadier, and more loving, because the quiet does not close the knit fills them. In their old age, they no longer apologize for needing this peace. They've learned that to love well, they must rest well. And their rest doesn't look like sleep, it looks like space. They are not withdrawing, they are restoring, so that when they return, They do so with calm eyes and a soul that is ready again to offer kindness. Number 18. They dislike small talk, but love meaningful conversation. They don't care much for the weather unless it's part of a story. They'll nod politely through talk of traffic, sports scores, or today's sale at the grocery shop, but their hearts don't live there. Introverted elders aren't fond of small talk, not because they're rude, but because their time, their energy, their presence is precious, and they'd rather spend it digging deeper. They want to know what made you cry last night, not just what you had for dinner. They want to hear how you heal from heartbreak, not how many likes your post got. They want to sit in silence with you until you're ready to speak the truth you've been carrying quietly. When you sit with them, you'll find that you don't need to fill every gap. They don't rush you. They don't fill the air with fluff. And when they finally speak, it matters because they've been thinking, and when they ask, "How are you really?" they mean it. They're not passing time. They're sharing it. They love stories, real ones, not just tales of what happened, but what it meant. And when you open up to them, you'll find a listener who doesn't judge, who doesn't interrupt, who holds your words like something sacred. To them, conversation isn't noise, it's connection. It's where souls meet, without performance, without masks. And when the moment's right, they'll tell you about their own lives, not in long monologues, but in tender fragments, a memory of their mother's hands, lesson they learned when they lost someone, a dream they still carry. It won't be loud, but it will stay with you, because introverted elders don't speak to impress. They speak to touch, and fate is the kind of conversation we'll never forget. Number 19. They are not lonely in solitude. They are rich in inner life. The room is quiet. The chair creaks slightly. A cup of tea grows warm between their palms. There is no music playing, no television humming in the background, no one knocking at the door, and yet they are not alone. Inside their silence, there is a garden, a place filled with memory, imagination, reflection, and wonder. Introverted elders are not lonely in solitude. They are accompanied by stories they've lived, dreams they've shaped, questions they've carried, and answers that still echo softly in the corners of their mind. They do not need a crowd to feel whole. They do not fear silence if they enter it. And when they do, they meet old friends inside, the scent of a long-forgotten summer, a childhood song, the tender face of someone they loved. There is so much life within them. It doesn't clamor to be seen. It just exists calmly, richly, like a lantern glowing behind frosted glass. Solitude is not emptiness for them. It's sanctuary, a space where they reconnect with their own soul, away from the noise of the world, away from the expectations that weigh heavy on so many. You might think they're quiet because they're tired, but often they are quiet because they're full of thoughts they've taken time to taste, full of wonder that still visits them in old age, full of gratitude for simple things, a sparrow on the fence, a breeze through the curtain, the whisper of time moving gently. In their solitude, they are not fading. They are rooting deeper into what matters. They have become friends with stillness, with their own heart, and with the mystery of simply being alive. And in that inner richness, they've discovered a truth. Many chase, but few find. You do not need a full house set to have a full life. Number 20, they are not fragile. They are quietly resilient. At a glance, they may seem delicate, soft-spoken, gentle hands, slow steps. Their voice doesn't rise above the crowd. Their presence doesn't demand the room. But look again, what you're seeing is not fragility. It's restraint. It's grace honed by years of carrying things in silence, of enduring without applause, of choosing calm over chaos, and peace over pride. Introverted elders are not made of glass. They are made of mountains, quiet, immovable, weathered by decays but still standing. They've survived storms without making noise about it. They've been in the wind, but never broken. They've lost people they loved and still offered love again. They've been misunderstood and chose understanding anyway. Their resilience is not loud. It doesn't arrive with banners or fists. It arrives in small things. The way they wake up and make their tea, even when the house is empty. The way they keep tending their plants, even after a long winter. The way they speak softly to a world that hasn't always listened back. They don't call themselves strong. They don't need. 2, because their strength lives in how they've endured in the way they keep showing up with kindness, with patience, with faith that gentle things still matter. They know that power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it waits. Sometimes it simply breathes. And in their quiet, they are not shrinking. They are anchored, held firm by experience, by wisdom, by the quiet dignity that only age and stillness can teach. So the next time you see an introverted elder sitting in silence, don't mistake it for weakness. You are looking at resilience softly spoken, deeply rooted, and utterly unshakable. And so, dear senior, we've reached the end of our quiet journey throughout the hearts and minds of those who speak softly, but carry entire worlds within them. To all the introverted elders out there, thank you for your wisdom whispered, for your strength unannounced, for showing us that silence is not emptiness but a form of deep, sacred presence. You've taught us that depth doesn't need noise, that gentleness is not weakness, and that resilience often manifests in the form of stillness. If this journey has touched your heart even just a little, please take a moment to show your love. Like this video if it made you reflect. Comment below and share your thoughts or stories, especially if you have someone special in your life who fits these reflections. Subscribe for more soulful content like this, so you never miss the quiet beauty we'll continue to uncover together. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, a parent, a grandparent, a dear friend, please share it with them. It might be the hug they didn't know they needed today. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for watching, for listening, and for honoring the quiet ones with us. Until next time, keep your heart gentle, your thoughts deep, and your presence kind. Take care.